I just want to be clear. What alligators were you talking about?
Oh, you keep watching, Jim, all right?
Okay, all right.
I wasn't talking about you. Not at all.
That's good
all
to know.
right? Well, here we are. It is Friday, and we're talking about the second shutdown in less than a month. It's over. Congress worked out that deal overnight.
Yeah, you can see from the rundown on the side of your screen, that's what we're talking about tonight at 6:30. The president tweeting moments after he signed the bill saying, quote, that our military will now be stronger than ever before. We love and need our military and gave them everything and more. First time this has happened in a long time also means jobs, jobs, jobs. But there are still major unresolved issues. Of course, last night, we went into the 11 o'clock hour. The Senate adjourned. It was inevitable to see a shutdown. I woke up this morning. It was over.
Me too.
So,
I was surprised, but
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of folks were happy about
Sure.
this. Joining us tonight, Democrat and chairman of the National Bar Association Political Action Committee, A. Scott Bolden, and Republican strategist Jack Berkman. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Sean.
Scott, I'm going to start with you. Is this a win for both sides, who we know, voted to agree to this deal, but it still does not include DACA?
Well, I certainly think it's a win for the moderates in the Republican and Democratic side. We may, for the first time, see what bipartisanship looks like. The far left and the far right are left out, the moderates and those who get some of what they want so they can move the country forward. DACA was not in this deal. The progressive left and those who are for DACA as a big issue for them, they've got to wait until March or later on this month for that debate. The problem with DACA for the Democrats and the Republicans is that DACA, as part of a broader immigration plan.
I think Sean Scott is a lot more optimistic than I would be about bipartisanship. Look, I want to bring members of Congress to that axe-throwing party you're talking about in the previous segment. That's where they belong. Look, let's talk turkey about what happened here. Schumer and Pelosi realized that they lost the last shutdown. They lost it. Obama was better than they are. He won them all. He had a clean sweep. They lost. They overplayed the Hispanic card. They overplayed their hand. Trump was able to build out that anti-immigration coalition. They played right into his hands. Now, I think Trump made a little bit of a mistake. He wanted to wrap this up. He has a lot on his agenda. In some sense, he's learning to be a president. He's becoming more conventional, But if I were Donald Trump, I would have shut the government down now to continue beating that anti-immigrant drum. I think that'll get him reelected in 2020.
Shutting the government down to get reelected, that sounds just like Donald Trump. The bottom line here is the Democrats didn't overplay their hand. DACA is important to Democrats and Republicans. Let's remember that. And they've got to have that debate because their own political and personal credibility is on the line. DACA is going to get dealt with one way or the other, but it can't get lost in the broader immigration debate. We'll have to see. But the Democrats haven't lost anything.
I'm not sure it will.
Pushing.
Look, I agree with you, although you say DACA is important. Remember, it doesn't deal with many children. Remember the age groups we're talking about.
It deals with over 800,000 of them, and it may be adults, but they came here as children.
DACA bleeds right into the Dreamers Act. That's what this is all about.
Sure.
Listen to me. Donald Trump wanted to legitimate 1.8 million immigrants, illegal immigrants. That's a very generous number. The only hang-up was he put a 12-year path to citizenship that the Democrats don't want. Now, why do they not want that?
The only hang-up is the wall. Why do we have to have $80 billion?
$25 billion, because we're saying $25 billion for border security. We know, obviously, we're talking about judges and other enhancements, but a big chunk of that is the wall, which the taxpayers were not supposed to be on the hang-up for.
And 60% of Americans don't want the wall. There's no empirical data to say that's going to reduce immigration.
That said, Scott, people voted for it.
Tougher issues and tougher borders means additional security, additional judges, and what have you. That's a proven effective means. And if you invest in that,
I'm a political strategist. I'm a political strategist. I'm not a philosopher or sociologist. Here's what I can tell you.
I got to jump in here. I want to ask you guys something. As we're talking about DACA, we know Nancy Pelosi said she was going to hold out. She was expecting that Democrats would follow her and follow her lead. They did not. I'm very curious if you think this might signal something different within the Democratic Party, Scott. I mean, does this mean that we're seeing a change over here? Should we see some new leadership there?
Not at all, although I will tell you, new leadership is always around the corner. In this particular case, these Democrats made a decision because it's called the midterms coming in 2018. And they've got to go back to their districts. They support DACA, but not at the expense of shutting down the government, because the polling shows it hurts both Democrats
Yeah, but
and
you see,
Republicans.
Scott, you're overplaying your hand. You already have a big lead with Hispanics. That's not what you need. Democrats.
We can't take them for granted either,
Here's
though, like
what's
the Republicans
happening.
do.
Here's what's happening, Sean. That's a real danger. Democrats are in the process of blowing a big election year. Remember when you saw Nancy Pelosi sitting there when President Trump called for unity and she frowned and she wouldn't stand? The American people don't want to see that. I really think if the Democrats want a big win in November, they need new leadership in the House.
I want to see Donald Trump in every Democratic district and every Republican and Democratic state, because he is not the messenger for unity. That's why nobody applauds it, because his rhetoric is
Neither
nothing
is
near the reality.
Pelosi. Neither is Pelosi, and this is your year to win.
Well,
Yeah,
and
but
I got to
this
say,
is
we've
your
talked.
year. This is the Republicans' year to lose in the midterms, and I'm looking forward to it, Jack.
We have had some centrist lawmakers on our show. One former Pennsylvania Congressman, Jason Altmaier, who was a Democrat, got redistricted out. He had said that if he was still in the Congress, he would be one of those people voting for the Tim Ryans of Ohio or some other younger blood, so to speak, some different, maybe Midwest, maybe more centrist blood. But I got to tell you, what I love watching about this whole battle is the fact that there is no certainty. We saw this battle play out. Democrats, there was no slam dunk for Democrats or Republicans here. There was some mystery involved in this. And I think for once, it was kind of fun to watch, for lack of a better word.
Well, I think I disagree with Scott a little bit. I agree with you. I agree with you, Jim. It was fun to watch, but I don't see any emerging bipartisanship. Although I wish I did, I just don't see it. I think both sides, in the fog of war, with all the bullets flying and shells exploding, have to figure out whether they're winning or losing. Sometimes that's hard. I think Democrats finally realized that they're not winning, and they cut a deal and ran.
Well, I think the Republicans did the same thing. They cut a deal. I mean, these are the tax and spend Republicans going forward. Donald Trump is the king of debt, and you actually have Republicans who are blowing holes in the deficit, raising the limit on the deficit and or the amount of money we can spend, and it's like it's topsy-turvy. So Democrats are the conservatives on fiscal spending.
I wonder.
Wait, hold on,
Join
gentlemen. We are out of time, but I just want to ask you both. You get like a one-word answer here. Do you guys? We want to end on something fun here.
Wait, are you asking Jack Berkman and Scott Fuller to come up with a one-word answer?
It's just really hard, guys.
Okay, let's do it.
Do you think that the president's idea for this military parade is a good idea? Jack?
Yes.
No.
Scott? All right. Thank you, thank you, Joe.
See, that was predictable. I knew where that was going.
We all knew where that was going. You guys, it's a pleasure to have you on. Have a
Thank
great
you,
weekend.
Sean. Thank you, Jim.
you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well, one of the biggest hang-ups of the latest budget battle, of course, is you just heard us talking about immigration.
Yeah, some Democrats threatened to hold out unless Republican leadership promised to hold a separate vote on DACA. Of course, we know the program, which protects immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children. George Escobar from CASA joining us tonight with more on this. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks so much for having me.
Are you optimistic we are going to see that vote? We've heard a lot of talk about it, but we haven't seen any action so far.
Sure. I mean, I think, first of all, it's important to realize that this is a crisis of Trump's own making, right? Back in September 5th, he was the one that eliminated the DACA program. He called for a hugely successful program to be eliminated, right? Now, we face this crisis, and we have to make sure that the Republicans who control Congress are the ones that actually contribute to a fix. So we're confident that we could eventually see, if our leaders hold out, that we can see eventually a path forward, but a path forward that really respects the dignity and the rights of our immigrant community, right? That doesn't pit one community against another, one status against another. Our families are composed of multi-statuses. There's people in a particular family that one individual may have TPS, another may have DACA, another may be a citizen. So it's important for whatever solution is brought forth that really looks at the family as a whole and really respects the dignity of our immigrant community.
Hey, George, are you frustrated that this was not part of the deal that was worked out last night to keep the government open? We know Nancy Pelosi wanted to hold out. She hoped Democrats would follow suit unless there was something on the table here. Are you disappointed?
It's very, very frustrating, right? Especially because we realize that we've been at this for more than 20 years now. The Dreamer debate and the Dreamer battle is not something that came to fruition, a year ago or over this month. This has been a struggle we've been fighting for a long time. But worse than not finding a solution now is agreeing to something that will have long-term negative consequences for our community, right? what the pillars that the Trump administration is trying to put forth are really racist. They look at really benefiting immigrants coming from Norway. They look at really limiting the opportunities that immigrants have to come to this country.
George, before we go, I just want to ask you, because this came up in the last segment, there is that proposal that came out, 1.8, that would allow 1.8 million eligible recipients, that would give them that path to citizenship, that would also spend money on border security. Is that something? Does that work in your favor, or is that just talk coming from the right?
Yeah, and again, you have to look at the entire package, right? It's 1.8. Again, that's the entire population that is currently eligible for DACA, right? And in exchange, what would you have? You would have the elimination of the visa lottery system. This is a system that primarily benefits individuals coming from Africa. You would limit the types of individuals that can come to the country. You would limit the ability for immigrants themselves and redefine what it means to be a citizen in petitioning for family members to come through. So again, it's a far right package, and it's something that's going to have long-term negative consequences, not only for our community, but for our economy, and long-term for the health and well-being of the country. So, again, the worst thing we can do is make a deal now that will be way more detrimental to our community over the long run.
All right, George Escobar, thanks so much for coming in. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
The GOP memo came out a week ago, and now President Trump is deciding whether to allow the release of the Democratic House Intelligence Committee memo on Russia's election meddling. Today, the president told reporters it will be real soon.
It's going to be released soon. Thank you very much. We're going to release a letter soon.
Well, the Democratic memo is still secret, but reportedly much longer than the Republican version, 10 pages versus 4. There are also far more footnotes, all of which need to be cleared by the Justice Department and FBI before the president decides whether to release the memo.
I know we talked a lot about this when the GOP memo came out, the Nunes memo came out, and the transparency that needs to be shown. So we saw parity here on both sides.
Well, the footnotes are important, too, because it came out that in the memo it didn't disclose it, but in the actual documents, there was a footnote that did say, look, there was some disclosure as to who paid for that dossier, but still, people are saying put it all out there on the table and see where it goes.
Absolutely.
Well, coming off of yesterday's 1,000-point plunge, the Dow fell about 500 points shortly after the opening bell, but then the Dow rebounded and rose nearly 350 points, fluctuating throughout the day, but in the end, 330 points up, finishing above 24,000. But despite the gains, the Dow wrapped up its worst week in 9 years.
All right. How about this? A weekend washout. Yeah, enjoy the sun while it lasts. Although, did we see much? We did see a little bit of sun today. A little bit of sun today. Rain is headed our way, though, and I understand we're going to see lots of rain, in fact.
Yeah. Hey, Caitlin.
Unfortunately, guys, at least it's the weekend, okay? So
that is true.
We have to take solace in that, okay? Whatever. It is the weekend. We will be near 60 degrees on Sunday, so it is going to be a warm, rather spring-like weekend, despite the fact that we are seeing rain. But no snow, no freezing rain, no ice to be concerned about as we go into your Saturday. Warmer but wet. That's the big headline as we head into tomorrow. We saw a little bit of sunshine today, but that's really all we're going to see till maybe Tuesday. Showers arrive Saturday afternoon. They're pretty light, but they'll become heavy as we could have a period of some steadier rain late Saturday night into Sunday. And then looking towards next week, it remains mild, very non-February-like, but it also remains unsettled, meaning we at least have a chance of a shower most days. 53 tomorrow. Temperatures really jump as we get a break in the rain Sunday afternoon, 62 with more rain into Monday. Tuesday looks chilly. Valentine's Day near 60 degrees with some sunshine. That's the best day of the week as we turn back to the shower chances Wednesday and Thursday. Back up to you guys.
Thank you, Caitlin. Well, for the very first time, the president spoke out about former aide Rob Porter, what he said about his close senior aide resigning amid allegations he abused his 2 ex-wives.